Hey guys, welcome back to my channel where I'll be doing another episode recap of today's Days of Our Lives, September 6, 2024. So we go back to see John and Brady, right? So John is doing his best to convince Brady not to plead guilty, just really have all the facts together. But Brady's adamant that, he has to pay for what happened to Sarah. Like, even though he can't remember everything, he still wants to be held accountable for it. So John is like, listen, think about your kids. Like, Tate just had his mother sent off to Statesville. You want to be the next parent? So he's like, he doesn't want to, but he wants to show his son that he can be responsible for all the things that he did wrong. He needs to own up for it, right? So he's like, listen, they really don't have any other parents, like stable parents. You only have Kristen and she's not all that stable. So like, you need to be here. And he's like, I get that, but there's other people that love and care for them. Like, they'll be fine and all that. So we see EJ and he's on the phone telling the officers or whoever that, Brady's getting arraigned tomorrow and everything needs to be put in place. So Eric overhears him and Eric is like, you just love to, create misery wherever you go. So he's like, I thought you were in France with my wife and my son. So he's like, correction, your wife is divorcing you and that is my son. So anyways, he said, okay, let me rephrase it. What are you doing here? So he's like, I'm here for my brother. So he's like, oh, I guess, two of you commit the same thing. Like, you both destroyed lives, by drunk driving. So I'm not even surprised. So he's like, at least Brady, owned up to it and, the person is still alive. But yet still, you killed Dr. Jonas and, poor Holly has to be affected by it. Does she know, that you did this and all that? So he's like, listen, I am here to just be for my brother. And, he's like, listen, on the other hand, your wife's attorney is working really hard, so your divorce decree should be in your hands at any point. So he just, read him with a clapback and went his merry way. So we go back to Tate and Holly, right? Because at this time, Tate blurted out that Eric was the one who, she asks, why he blurted out Eric. She's like, what does Eric has to do with my dad's death, So Tate officially told her that, Eric was the one behind the wheel that killed her dad. And she's like surprised. She's like, how am I just hearing about this? He's like, I really thought that you did. Like, obviously could tell that he thought she already knew about who, was responsible, but she didn't. So she's like, how could nobody tell me? Like, how could her mom not tell me? And he's like, probably your mom was trying to protect you. And she's like, no, I don't think so. I think she's just trying to protect the love of her life. Like, how could she not tell me that? Right? And he's just going around like nothing happened. He was my stepfather for so long, and nobody had the decency to tell me the truth. And I definitely can agree with that. Like, Nicole, I don't know how Nicole could be with Eric after what he did to the father of her daughter. I don't know, but anyways, it's a soap opera, guys. But anyways, he tried to defend his uncle and all that, and she's like, listen, I don't want you trying to take up for him like how you take up for your dad. Like, listen, this is indefensible. Killing somebody and also like crippling somebody because of drunk driving is indefensible. And I'm saying, she's right about that. But I also remember that she also got Tate arrested for her drug overdose and all that. So she also needs to humble herself a bit, but I get it. So she did tell Tate to go about his business because she needed space, right? So she did end up seeing Eric because she did actually look online to see, who actually did it, and it was factual. And while she was joking down about it, Eric just shows up. So that was it between them for now. So we go over to see Maggie and Justin, right? Because they were continuing the conversation because it's like they can't seem to fathom how Brady could just, hit Sarah and just leave her there, right? It's not in his character. So she just doesn't know, like, how could it have happened? So then she begins to talk about her whole experience with drunk drivers. And remember that Eric did run over her son Daniel, so she's going through it again. The only good thing is that Sarah is alive. So Justin's like, Brady doesn't even remember that he was behind the wheel. He has no recollection. So she's like, then if he doesn't remember, why is he pleading guilty? Like, it don't make sense, because I also remember when I was set up for Adrian's death, when I was behind the wheel, but it was Orpheus who put me there. I wasn't responsible for that, or for Sarah's baby being dead. So I definitely understand where Brady's in. So they're just hoping that somehow this can all be cleared up. Go back to Sarah, Xander, and Fiona, because Sarah was having a flashback of what happened on that night of the accident. So she's like, she remembers. And so Xander is like, what do you remember? So she's like, it wasn't Brady behind the wheel, but I still can't make out the person that is actually the wheel. Like, it's still blurry. So Fiona is like, you know what, maybe you need to rest, don't try to pressure yourself. So she's just doing everything to make Sarah not remember that it was actually her at the wheel that ran her over, right? So Xander's still trying to press her and trying to just try to get the full story, right? So that they can really fully ID Brady, or just solve this, some closure. So Fiona was like, you know what, she needs to rest. I'll take care of her. Go get some soup for her and all that. So he's like, you sure? And she's like, yeah, I really need to rest. And she'll be in good hands. So I'm like, oh gosh, this doesn't look good. Her and Fiona being alone in this room. So we go back to John, right? John is out of the interrogation room and he sees Eric, and he's, excited to see him. He said he heard that, his mom said that he would be back in town. So he's just happy, and hopefully Eric can really get through to Brady, since he's been through what he's been through. So we go on to the next scene. So the warden came back into the interrogation room and tell Brady that he has another visitor. So he's like, I just really don't need to see anybody. So Eric comes in and is like, how about your brother? So Brady, of course, is overjoyed to see him. He's like, what are you doing here? I thought you were in France and Nicole and the baby. Like, are they here? And he's like, no, I'm just here alone to just focus on you, and I'm not here to really tell you what to do. I'm just here for support, because if anybody understands atoning for their actions, it's me. So he just offers words of comfort for him, and he's like, you sure you can't really remember what happened? So he's like, no, it's just really foggy for me. He did remember something before Eric came in, and it was that he was having a drink with Fiona, but that was it for now. So Eric shares his whole experience with drunk driving and actually killing Daniel, and he said that he's about to atone more because he's gonna tell Holly the truth finally, right? So while that was going on, John was out there, and Justin came through, and Justin is like, how's things going? And John is saying he's still not budging, he still want to plead guilty. And Eric is here, so he's like, Eric is in town. So he's like, yeah, he's there to support his brother. So he's like, yeah, he definitely needs that. So John is like, listen, we need to find a way how to help Brady, and Justin's like, I think I know the perfect person to talk to, right? So he's like, we pay the big bucks, so I'll leave you to it, right? So anyways, he sees EJ and he talks to EJ and said, listen, you need to dismiss this case now, because you really don't have concrete evidence. You can't pitch the car to the scene or everything. So you really don't have nothing but circumstantial evidence. So he's like, listen, he confessed, and he's like, listen, that can't hold up in court. You'll be wasting your time and taxpayers' time with all that nonsense. So you just need to dismiss it. So he eventually budged, and Justin said, look, you're free to go home. And he's like, no, I need to pay for what I did to Sarah. So each is like, you're still here? Listen, you need to leave before I change my mind. So he's like, I'm surprised, all that. So he's like, you know what, when me and my team find the evidence that we need to do, I will haul you back in here. So I'm like, EJ, you need to take your personal feelings out of things. You need to stop abusing your power. So we see Tate back at the penthouse, and John comes in, and he's asking how his dad is doing. He said he's holding up. So he's just adamant that he wants to pay for what he did, and Tate understands it. So he's like, is there any other reason you're looking like that? So he did tell John that, he did accidentally blurt out that Eric was a drunk driver to Holly, and he didn't know that Holly didn't know the secret before, didn't know before. So he's just upset that he probably did a wrong, he probably made a big mistake, right? So we see Xander come downstairs, and Maggie's asking how is Sarah doing, is she resting? So he's like, no, she's actually hungry, and I'm just there to check on the soup and to bring it up to her, right? So he did tell Maggie that Sarah did try to remember what happened at the accident. So she's like, what did she remember? So he's like, it was really foggy, but I think it was also draining to her, so she need to be resting. So she's like, we can't afford to be pressing her that much to remember, but hopefully at some point she remember who was behind the wheel, right? So he did also tell Maggie that he's happy that both, moms are here to support them through this. And, he was kind of hesitant at first when Sarah said that his mom was coming, because of their relationship and the resentment. But he's really glad that she's here. So speaking of mommy there, she's upstairs. I don't know what she have on that rug. If it's some kind of chloroform, I don't know. It could be a damp rug, but anyway, she has it on Sarah's head, and she's singing this nursery rhyme to her, and Sarah's resting, she's falling asleep. And I don't know what possessed Fiona, she to take out the pillow to suffocate the girl. So I don't know if she's gonna go through it, or Sarah's gonna wake up, or somebody's gonna come in. But Fiona, you really reached to the deep end. This is crazy. So anyways, guys, that is it for today's episode. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. I will see you next week for an all new Days of Our Lives recap. Have a great weekend. Bye.